It's maybe the night that my dreams might let me know. All the stars are closer. All the stars are closer.
Tell me what you gonna do to me. Confrontation ain't nothing new to me. You could bring a bullet, bring a sword, bring a morgue, but you can't bring the truth to me.
Alexa, play Kendrick Lamar and SZA.
Okay.
Maybe the night that my dreams might let me know. All the stars are closer.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Blog Talk Radio.
Here we go with the main event of the evening. Ladies and gentlemen in attendance, moms and dads joining us around the world. It's time for the bout you've all been waiting for. Finally, it's showtime.
Here, man, we dedicate our life to this sport. We do thousands of sit-ups in camp. We run hundreds of miles, for the ones that take it serious. And we just dedicate ourselves fully to our craft, man. We watch tape. We have attitude. We rooting, and we go into that fight just to lay it on the line.
Minnesota Vikings fans, the Purple People Eaters pod returns. I'm your host, Chris Carlson. My co-host, Aaron, will be chiming in very shortly. We are back. Like I mentioned, the Purple People Eaters podcast returns with a whole lot to talk about. Now, if you're looking for a mid-season report, all the grades and all that type of stuff, we did that last week. I'm noticing a handful of podcasts, with the Vikings theme to it, are kind of doing it in the last couple of days or this week. We already got that one. So if you want to go mid-season stuff and just a breakdown of the halfway point, go ahead and listen to the last episode. And by the way, I'd like to, thank everybody for listening to the show. We are new to this. As far as the Vikings podcast world, whole lot of them out there. Thanks for taking time to listen. Obviously, if you're a Minnesota Vikings fan or just a football fan or maybe a casual Vikings fan or just an NFC North fan, this is a big week. This is a very, very big week. What's up to the Chicago Bears fans? I'm old enough when it was called the Go. Where are you going? I'm going to the Go, Chicago. Not Chi-Town, not all sorts of other names that it has now, but it was called the Go. So what's up, Chicago Bears fans? Good luck this week, and that'll be the next or the last positive thing that I will say, just to be honest. Anyway, we got a big game coming up. Primetime NBC Sunday night. It got flexed. We mentioned that last week. Vikings and Bears for all the marbles. Okay, wait, maybe it's not that intense just yet. That'll be to close the season probably. But this one's big. How big is it? It's huge, inside the divisional race. It's huge because it's an NFC game, not just NFC North, but NFC, game, and that does count up. When playoff time comes, if you're tied with somebody or that type of thing. So it's a big game. Is it bigger for us because we are that half game back? Some people will argue that. Some people will say, hey, the Bears at home. If you want to make the playoffs, you want to win as many home games as you can. They're at home. They need to win the game. But that could also keep that momentum going, though, for the Bears as well. They get this big win. And then all of a sudden, they keep, what they got going right now. And they got something going. And speaking of, we do have some topics for discussion, a variety of stuff, most of it previewing the game, whether it's, talking about Kahlil Mack, dominating the line of scrimmage in the backfields. just eaten through offensive linemen. He is back. And, when it comes to Mitch Trubisky, as far as containing him, we'll definitely need to contain him. Hopefully our rejuvenated defense, is up for the task. So we'll start with previewing this game. Actually, I take that back. We are going to start with kind of our thoughts of the bye week pickups and other news. Obviously, we added some running back depth. We'll get our take both on that. And we'll mention the Shariff Floyd lawsuit as well, just a little bit, but most of it will be surrounded with the preview and prediction for this Bears game coming up. And then, since we don't have – a lot of times we start with a recap based off the last game, and we really dig deep into that. That won't be the case, obviously, because we're on a bye week. So we are going to dig maybe a little bit deeper into the Minnesota Gophers football segment. We understand this is the Minnesota Vikings football podcast. We're going to lead with that heavy. But we do have a bye week, so we're going to have a little filler, and we do this every week. We figure, hey, there is a percentage of people that are just football fans. There's a potential that you're going to have some interest. And, coming off a big win over Purdue, that there's a lot to talk about. Then we're going to preview the Northwestern game, which is really, really important from a program, mentality. I know 6 wins, being 6-6, a lot of people think that's garbage. Why do I even pay attention? We're going to fill you in on all of that, and then we're going to end the show because, like I said, it was a bye week. We usually go long with the recap and just our thoughts from the game. The fallout or the positivities, negatives, whatever it is. We're going to end the show with a quick little Jimmy Butler trade segment, okay? Unfortunately, we're going to do some of that. But we know that this is not a basketball show, so it's not going to be long. It's not going to hurt, and it's at the end. So if you're not into basketball, you can just tune it out. If this is your first time listening to the Purple People Eaters podcast, it streams right here live on blogtalkradio.com/Rope-A-Dope Radio. So it streams live, it archives. It's basically the headquarters. We're also available on the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network. Now, both the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast and the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast can be found a whole lot of places. You can subscribe on iTunes, Player FM, Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn. Basically, most places that you listen to your podcast, whatever platform it is, you can find the Purple People Eaters podcast, the Rope-A-Dope Radio podcast it's umbrellaed with. And the Grueling Truth Sports Podcast Network is on iHeartRadio. You can stream it there, and on Spotify for those who do the Spotify thing. Head on over to the gruelingtruth.net. That's the gruelingtruth.net. They got football, basketball, baseball, boxing, everything in between. Head on over to the gruelingtruth.net. You can listen to a podcast. You can read an article. And while you're at a place of bet, it'll link you right to mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. So, quick little stuff on the bye week. One thing I know about this bye week is I saw a lot of snow in the air the last 7 days. Now, I realize that the snow did not really stick. If I look out right now, there wasn't much wind today. The temperature's going to go up in the next couple of days. We live in Minnesota, and I'm not up here complaining about snow in November. However, we're not even mid-November, and it was in the air like 5 times out of the last 7 days. It's just like, so it's snowing again? It just seems kind of random. Of course, we had a very rainy fall, so this is probably what that is. Anyway, had a good bye week. Sometimes that Sunday comes around and you're thinking, okay, I got to DVR the game. Oh, there's no game. There's no game. But the Vikings were active, okay? They picked up a running back, Abdullah, who had, out of the University of Nebraska, had a really good start to his career. It's, simmered since. He's a guy that can catch, out of the backfield. He's a guy that can do kickoff returns. Basically, at this stage, he's more of a veteran with more experience. Now, he does have some of the fumble-rooski issues. I think that's one of, from what I hear from Lions fans and fantasy owners, they're saying that he did have a little bit of the case of the fumble-rooski. So hopefully him and Cousins don't hang out too much. But bringing him in ties on the main roster, the 53-man roster, with Rock Thomas. Now, I say cutting ties. That was the wrong way to put it. We did manage to get him on the practice squad last time I checked. So that's good because he did show some potential. In fact, I got a message in August saying Rock Thomas from my co-host. And here we are today doing a podcast together. Right off the bat, Aaron, what do you think of this? Abdullah comes in with more game experience. And with Cook with the hammy, it looked good. He ran faster than Tyreek Hill on that run. No one's had a faster run over 22 miles an hour. The way they track it. And some people are like, oh, they can't track that. It's like, well, it's a lot better than a speed gun, dude. Like, they have technology that's just in the stadium, and it's on you, dude. Like, they can track that. But anyway, the hammy, it's a hammy, and things happen. And his style of, running, he's kind of banged up. I mean, knock on wood, let's hope he's good to go for the rest of the season. But you need that depth. It would have been nice to have this depth. Where are you at with this one? And it is a nice bonus that we're, able to, still hold on to Rock Thomas for the future.
Yeah, it really is. I like Rock Thomas a lot. So it's good to see that he passed through waivers and we got him back on the practice squad. Amir Abdullah, like you said, there's a lot of fumble problems there. I think any time I really remember him in his professional career, it's been somehow related to a fumble. So that's a little weird, but it kind of that Jerick McKinnon kind of scat back out of the backfield can do a lot for you if he hangs onto the ball. He's quick, kind of agile guy. Played really well out of Nebraska. So doesn't have a lot of tread on the tires because the Lions didn't use him a whole heck of a lot. So let's hope that that's a good thing. And if not, you've got Rock on the practice squad and Boone and the other guys. So I think you're right. It just kind of adds depth and allows you to maybe do some things. If you lose Cook or Cook can't play again, you've got an agile kind of back that can spell and give you a different look than Murray.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a smart pickup. You get a guy with some experience, and why not, man? You just never know. Like I said, knock on wood. Let's hope Cook remains healthy the rest of the year. Besides, the little bumps and bruises that you have, and, well, I guess for the future in general, actually, with Cook. So I believe that's an upgrade. I really do at this point. And, kickoff stuff as well. It's in general. I like it. The other news that people were talking about was Shariff Floyd, the former interior defensive lineman, his lawsuit pertaining to a surgery he had from injuries, caused by playing football for the Minnesota Vikings. Now, the Vikings at this point aren't actually named in the suit. It's a doctor, obviously, in a doctor's office that he's suing. It sounds like, now this is all alleged stuff that was in the lawsuit, not me saying it. This is just what is claimed. He is claiming that they were going to do a procedure that would have him out, a month, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, something like that. Now, while he was allegedly, I'd like to say that again, Shariff is, claiming that, and it sounds like this happened, but I'm going to, we don't know until the lawsuit finishes up and whatnot, but it sounds like they did a different procedure without his sign-off on it while he was out. So when you're under the scope, you're out, and then they do something else, which actually ended his season. And he said, I would have never signed off on something. I would have done that in the off season. I wouldn't have done that during his season if I'd known that there was a potential that I would risk the rest of the season rather than whatever it was, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, whatever. So obviously that's a huge, huge, huge deal for him. And I think it was like $180 or $170, $170 million he sued for. A lot of that, you try to, he wasn't going to make no, it was even more than that. He wasn't going to make the money he's suing for, but a lot of times you go over. And you kind of do it with nowadays, contracts. So you say, well, this wasn't that long ago. I'd be on this contract by now, and, I'd be able to make a certain amount of money per year. And if that is true, if that holds up, that is messed up, especially for a guy that it's not like you got to go, Aaron. It's not like you got to go back to the office and you just have one of those things where you rest your knee on it and you just kind of scoot around and stuff like it. You're a football player, dude. If that is true, which it sounds like it is, like I said, it's alleged right now, that is some serious messed up stuff. Doing a different procedure while you're out without signing off on it, that's crazy.
Yeah, it really is. It's kind of a strange story, allegedly, all around. You'd think that they would have pretty much the procedure ironed out before, they got under the scope or put him under anesthesia. But, yeah, it's awfully strange. And the settlement he's asking for, you're right, I'm sure he's shooting high and hoping to either settle or come down to a number that both parties can live with. But, yeah, right. You would think that, the Vikings and all parties involved would have been able to have more of a say on exactly what procedure and what timing the procedure was done under. And I'm assuming that they probably did. I don't know if the surgeon was allegedly freelancing or maybe saw something and made a change. It's hard to tell, but that's the guy that a lot of guys go to get arthroscopic surgeries done. He's kind of the marquee name in the business.
Is that what Andrews? It is? Andrews? Yep, you're right. It's very
Dr. James Andrews. So it's kind of an odd, and I haven't heard of any more in the public eye anywhere, any other issues he's had legally with other athletes and exclusively athletes. You just don't think you want to be down there spitballing on somebody's knee. So I'm sure there's especially, an athlete's knee, it's where their money is. So,
right.
Yeah, it's an interesting case all around, and it'd be interesting to see how it finishes up.
Yeah, I'm really wondering, man, because if that turns out to be true, wow, dude, that could really obviously it could have messed up Floyd really bad, but also, just in general, like his practice. That's gonna hurt his clientele, so to speak. Because, like you said, he's a very well-known practitioner in that line of work. And Jesus, though, like, what the hell are you doing? Like I mentioned, he's not going to be rolling around the office in a little scooter chair with his knee up. Like, dog, this is his bread and butter. Like, he's even, talking about it happened so early now that I'm still trying to figure out what the hell I want to do with my life. It's got him all messed up in a lot of ways mentally too. So, injuries were really the only thing with Floyd. Otherwise, that guy had, he was in the backfield a whole lot, and we've been missing him ever since until we got Sheldon. So, hopefully he gets his money if that all is true, and hopefully he can kind of rebuild himself up mentally and get out there and, move on with the rest of his life, because obviously football players and players, in general from any sport, they only have, their shelf life, especially in football, it's not that long. So good luck to him. Hopefully he gets the money that's coming to him if, in fact, what he alleges is true. So is there anything else that kind of I missed as far as the bye week stuff or any kind of news that has popped up in the last day or two that I just that we didn't text back and forth before we start breaking down this huge, NFC North game?
I haven't heard anything more than what we've kind of gone over. It's been kind of a quiet bye week. We haven't got the injury report. We'll get that Wednesday to see who's back and who's not. I think they're all kind of filing back into the building here, getting ready to prepare for a big game in Chicago, flex to Sunday night, so everybody knows it's going to carry some weight. Now, if you would have told me 2 weeks ago or a week ago at the beginning of the bye that this game was going to hold the kind of weight that it did, or much less at the beginning of the season that this game would hold the kind of weight it's going to hold, I would never have guessed it. So, yeah, this is an interesting turn here in the NFC North.
Yeah, I agree with you. In fact, I remember week one, way back when we had Larry, unfortunately we haven't been able to get him back on. His schedule's kind of mixed up with ours, but we were talking about the Bears and how they got a bad quarterback and a good defense with no offense, and it's the same thing, and it's just the Bears that we know in the last decade or whatever. And so yeah, I'm with you there. I wouldn't have thought that it would be. I wouldn't have thought we'd be 5-3-1. Not to say that I thought we were only going to have one loss either, but I definitely would have thought we would have had a draw just off the percentages of the chances of that. Of course, at the beginning of the year, it seemed like everybody was going to have a draw there for a second. But yeah, this is huge. And what do you? I mean, right now, what do you think about? Some people are saying, "Hey, this is huge for both," or is it huge, like a bigger, more importance because it's a home game for the Bears? And if you're trying to make the playoffs, you're trying to win a division, you got to take care of the home games. Obviously the Bills game still pisses me off. No doubt about it. That was Cousins' worst game. It just as a team, we didn't play up to par, especially offensively, and Cousins led the way with that. Same with the offensive line. Both of them had really rough days. What do you think about that? Obviously, it's a huge game, and they have momentum right now, winning 2 in a row, or 3 in a row, I should say. Wait a second. Yeah, 3 in a row. And, their 2 losses that they had, one was at home, New England, 38-31, and another was at Miami, but that was in overtime, 31-28. So they've been on a run. If they go ahead and create even more separation, I kind of feel like the momentum will just keep helping them push, keep going with it. What do you think? We're behind by a half game, basically, at the end of the day. Which team is it more important? Because I've heard a lot of that this week so far, and I thought, or I should say the last couple of days, because it is only Monday. I should be calling it this week just yet, but what's your thoughts on that? I've heard a lot of people kind of going back and forth, and I still think it's very important at this point for the Vikes because of the games we got coming up. Sure, we got the Packers at home. That helps. But then we're on the freaking road again, at New England. And Seattle's showing some life. It's at Seattle. That's a tough game. I'd say this is just duly important for each team. And you could argue, even though we got the Bears to close at home, I think you could argue it's almost more important for us at this point because our confidence level is getting boosted, but it kind of seems like we needed that Philly road game. To me, I kind of feel like we need this Chicago game.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that we do need this game. Let's go pros and cons on the Bears. You take the Bears win, they can, keep the momentum they've got going. And they've got, like I said, a pretty light schedule coming up as far as the rest of the season is concerned. And they are playing really, really well. Their defense is playing well. Now, I don't think they've played anybody. Now, they played Green Bay. They lost that. They played the Patriots and lost that. So those are pretty good teams. Everybody else they've beat has not been very good. This is a test for them. It's in the division. They need to win this one, just maybe to set a tone for their season and prove that they're for real and a team to be reckoned with. On our side, Vikings pros and cons is we need to set the tone in the division. We need to come out of the bye strong and with confidence. That'll be a good way to go to Chicago and win this game. And just kind of let know who runs the North Division. We've done it for the last year, and I think probably the year before. We've been up in the top of the division, and we need to cement that by going in and beating the Bears. If we lose this game, it's not the end of the world, but it sure makes things more difficult. Like you said, Seattle's coming on. We got New England on the road. We've got one more with each team. I think we've got Green Bay at home, and we've got Detroit at home, and the Bears again at home. So go steal this one and get it. It's not going to be easy. Both teams have a heck of a lot to play for, and I feel like the winner of this game really has a leg up in the division if they continue to play at the level they're playing now.
Yeah, it's hard to deny that. It's hard to argue with that. I'm right there with you, man. When you look at, they have the Rams. They have another game against Green Bay. They have that at home, but this is big, man. This is really big. And like you said, we got to show them who's boss, so to speak, and to have, to get that road victory, which is, it's always tough to win on the road no matter where you're playing in the NFL, and to then be able to potentially beat Green Bay at home, all of a sudden you're in the driver's seat. Is the car, in the garage and locked up safely? No, not yet, but it really puts you on that path, especially with this tie, which could actually help us when it comes down to it, because it isn't a loss, but it could also bite us in the ass along with that Buffalo game. And just the official injury report, you're right. It is not out just yet. However, just being on ESPN.com, which I am throughout the day, a lot of us are, to see an injury report that says no injured players on it, and for the Bears it says Deion Sims, his status is out. It feels good as a Vikings fan, because we've been kind of mounting up those injuries over the last, say, month, and they've been like, a lot of them have been stud players too. So that's really, really hurt us. So that's refreshing to see, no doubt about it. Of course, the Mack is back though. The Kahlil Mack, the do-it-all linebacker. We were talking about when they made the trade, this guy made a tackle coming off the private jet. He was so ready to be in this Bears defense. I mean, he took this division and just this side of the conference by storm. And I just saw a clip. A couple of people tweeted this clip of him just ransacking offensive line. Excuse me, I'm going to jump that dude. I make the sack. This guy is just a maniac, man, in a good way, in a great way for them and for him, obviously. I love watching him play. I've always been a big linebacker guy. Maybe that's the Scott Studwells. Maybe that's the Ray Lewises. Maybe it's just, I don't know what it is, but I've always been fond of it. Of course, Singletary with the eyes. It's just something I've always followed, and this guy is a stud, man. The Mac is back, and we got to do our best just to contain him. I want an extra tight end, an extra ham. I want something in there to help out. We got to help out with this guy. And I feel like we're really going to have to depend on our, our wide receivers here, because I think we're going to hold some people back once in a while, at least more than we have. And sometimes even when the offensive line has looked bad, it's taken a while to like the third quarter, like, hey, Zim, you want to get somebody over there potentially? We paid this guy a lot of money, Zimmy. Let's see, hey, maybe you can't see out of that other eye, but what we're seeing right now, Zimmy, I love you to death. Second favorite coach all time, but Zimmy, let's get another body over there, can we? And also the quick passing. 3-step, get the thing out of about 5-step tops, like the play action only if the run's going. Obviously, there I said it, the run game. I mean, how crucial, is the run game this week when you got a guy like Mack? And just, at times this defense has played better. They do have better stats than us. However, like you mentioned, it's not like they've faced a lot of great teams at all. Like even faced some of them, and they haven't beaten many of them. Not that we've beaten all these good teams too, because we haven't. But, and that's kind of where the NFC is right now. This is where you find out. November, December is where you find out, who's what and where. And so to me, the run game is so crucial. And then this rejuvenated defense, man, we gotta tame Mitch Trubisky. Trubisky. I always add an N in there. I don't know why. Trubisky. I always add the N. I'm not sure why. But we got to tame him. But really, I'm more about you're not going to stop Mack. You just hope to contain him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, those are the two real keys I see going into this game is you've got to do something about Mack. He's a handful, and they move him around a lot to his linebacker spot, to a rush end. And you got to get chips. You're going to have to chip with Ham, keep your tight ends in. Going mostly up against our rookie right tackle, Brian O'Neill, who I think's got the quickness, but does he have the strength? Does he have the weight? I did see that clip of Mack just trucking two guys and sacking the quarterback, and that guy's strong. So this is where O'Neill needs to really get planted in and really start to work. Now, I don't think we're going to leave him alone out there with him. I think we'll be chipping backs and using tight ends, but like that clip showed, that doesn't seem to really matter too much. So I think what you got to do extensively is run at him and just keep running at him and try to wear him down. Run away from him, make him run at him, and pound him with 2-3 linemen. And hopefully you can get that going enough where you can make that a staple of your offense going forward. You're right, quick passing would be good, maybe bootlegs away. Just a lot of offensive tricks to stay away from them. But, you can't change everything for one guy, so some guys are just going to have to knuckle up and do their job. Their offense, really, I worry about Trubisky running the football. That's always kind of been a problem for our defense in the Zimmer years is you get everything covered, you get everything where you want it, and then there's a lane and the quarterback will take it. And Trubisky's known to do that. And you don't want to spy initially. I mean, if you get down to it and he's just cutting you up on the ground, you're going to have to spy. But initially, I think you just want to make sure that everybody's disciplined in their rush. Lanes and keeping contained is another one. So I kind of see this Bears team as a poor man's Saints, with that kind of same parts, just maybe not as talented. You've got Tariq Cohen, who's a bit like Kamara. You've got Trubisky, who's kind of like Breeze, obviously not as good, but the same kind of chess pieces. So I think you can pull a lot from their team and kind of put it towards what they like to do in Chicago. It's really interesting to see what Nagy's done with that offense. It's really diverse and there's a lot. And Trubisky's just really started to play well. I watched him on Sunday, kind of scouting for what we had coming up, and I was impressed with just kind of his accuracy and how he kind of runs the team. I think their receivers are they don't really have a lot of talent and depth there. They're definitely adequate, so I think we're going to be fine in coverage is concerned, but we've got to be able to stop the run, watch the lanes, rush hard, but also stay disciplined in that. And I think we'll be all right as far as that's concerned. But, yeah, those are the 2 points. Trubisky's running and Kahlil Mack somehow keeping him under wraps. Now, he's going to get his, I'm assuming, but like you said, contain it, keep it manageable. Another thing that I wanted to bring up here is that Chicago's been forcing an awful lot of turnovers. And I think they got 24 turnovers on the year. They're plus 13 on the year. In comparison, the Vikings are plus 1. So Chicago's turned the ball over a lot, and we've got a turnover-prone quarterback. So if Mack gets there and we let him get into the pocket or get their hands on it, whoever wins this turnover battle is really going to win this game. So it's important. The biggest point here is just hang on to the ball, don't give them extra possessions, and just play your game.
Yeah, well said. 2 hands on the ball outside of the pocket, inside of the pocket, on the sidelines right now. 2 hands on the ball, Cousins. We got the one-eyed jack coach, right? We need 2 hands on the ball at all times until you're throwing the ball, Cousins. Please, this week, do not have multiple fumbles. Please, please, please. But just to add to your point, they have 4 wide receivers that all have 400-plus yards. They do have somebody up there with 332. So they spread it out. It's not like a one-man show, no doubt about it. Howard can run the ball all right. I'm not looking at him killing us. But you're right. Trubisky does run the ball. He's got 300 and some odd yards rushing. That's pretty damn good. 320. And 460 is the leading rusher. So that tells you right there that he's more than capable of that. So you definitely got to just make him dink and dump. And you hit it on the head. And there, as far as a running quarterback, and I remember this with the Tampa 2, I remember with some great defenses. Now they get it fixed in the game, but there are times, and just get ready for this, Vikings fans, when he's going to run for a first down. And there's not much we can do about it a couple times. But let's just hope that they, can really get that figured out. Like I said, I think it'll happen, but it can't keep happening. It can't be 4 first down runs or 1 for, 28 yards out of nowhere or something like that. But you're right. That is true. Whether it's our style of defense or whatever it is, and even some great defenses from the past, that is one of, the cons. There's a lot of pros to it, but there is some cons with that. Now, they run the ball better than us on offense. I guess that's not saying a whole lot. I remember when we were in the 62 range or whatever, we're still up to 91 per game average, and they do 120. So they have ran the ball overall better. But now, it is a little different ball game, with Cook back as well. Neither really give up a lot of run or a ton of passing, although it's higher than, especially us, 258's, kind of high for what we normally, average on defense and give up. But, of course, we pass the ball about 40 yards more, 42 yards more per game. And so, I really think you're right about turnovers. Right now, the Bears on the betting lines are a 3-point favorite. So that's about a pick-em game because that old 3 points for the home team. So it's about a pick-em game, and that's what I really feel like. And when you have tight games, I mean, look at the Bills game, for Christ's sake. That shouldn't even what was that, a 17-point spread or something like that? We did the stats back then. We ran the stats. It hadn't happened much where a team lost, especially at home. And I keep bringing that up, but I guess I'm just not over it, guys. I'm sorry. They have been putting points on the boards, but a lot of it has been the turnovers too. Not just they scoop and score, but they put their offense in a good spot. So we got to make sure, especially in the first half, just be within range. And I don't mean range of 2 scores. I mean right there in range. If we went down and scored a touchdown, we'd either be tied or the lead or down by 3 at half or a field goal, whatever it is. But just be well within range and not give up these turnovers. I think that is what this game's going to come down to. So you can look at their almost 30-point average and, per game on offense, and you think, Jesus Christ, they are putting up a lot of points. And they are, obviously. But when you have that many turnovers, that, is key too. And they've been on a run. They've won 3 in a row, one against the Jets, one against Buffalo. They dogged out Buffalo 41-9. That Detroit game was pretty tight. And like I said, even, in defeat, you're 38-31 against the Pats. You're losing 31-28 in overtime. That's a road game, though. Miami's not that good, but still, it's a road game. So things happen on the road, and here we are on the road. After the hot start that they got. So, for me, I do think the success we've had as far as winning into the bye week and winning after under Zimmer has been pretty good. According to ESPN's Football Power Index, Aaron, the Bears are in the matchup predictor. The Bears have a 57.5% chance to win this game, whereas ours is 42.2. There's a 0.3 chance that we end in a tie, just so you know. This is really big stuff here, this ESPN Power Football Index, man. You just go by it. No, but I think, with Diggsy back, hopefully, I assuming he's back, with a lot of our guys healthy or back or just feeling good in general, obviously Xavier is a guy that you hope that, it sounded like an ankle, but when I looked at that, I did think it was his foot, and it actually sounds like his foot was a little bit more sore than just the whole ankle, like a high ankle sprain. And if you remember, when he kind of tumbled, he did land on his foot a little weird, kind of awkwardly, so it actually was a foot issue too. Now, not a toe, okay? You don't want to mess with the toes. Skilled players and toes, that's why Deion Sanders had to retire a couple years early. The toes are no joke when it comes to the skilled positions on both offense and defense. But I think, I'm back and forth, and I've been putting this off. I'm tap dancing as we speak. But I'm going with the Vikings victory. Couldn't even get it out all the way because I'm still hesitant. It says the over-under is at 45.5. I'm going to go over with the Vikings W, sir. What says you?
I think that this really needs to be a game where the Vikings come out and show their experience. They've been in big games. They've played in big games recently. The Bears have not done that. And that needs to be something that we impose upon them, that it's time to play ball. And you haven't done it yet. They're upstarts. We've been doing it for a couple of years now. That really needs to be something that we do. I'm going to take the under. I think it's going to be a pretty low-scoring game. I think the weather's not going to be beautiful. It's going to be cold. It's natural grass, so it'll be a nice hard surface. It'll be good for speed, but, cold in the hands and the hitting will hurt and all that. So it's NFC North, baby. That's what we do. But so I'm going to take the Vikings as well. I think we're going to eke one out here. I just feel like they need to do it. It's experience. This is something that they've done before. The Bears haven't really quite been here. They haven't been in a position to grab a hold of the division in the last, 5 years or so. So I think that's going to be a big thing. I hope that the Vikings can carry that forward, and they know that that's an ace in their pocket. So I'm going to take the Vikings. I'm going to go 7 points. I think it could be maybe 10, but I'm going to go Vikings by 7 and get out of there and get back home.
Yeah, man, be nice. That would be nice. So that basically ends the Vikings talk. We're going to keep it football heavy, though, with our traditional weekly Gopher Football segment. For those tuning out right now, I get it. But you better get that oar in the frickin' river pretty damn soon, dude, because this canoe, it's a canoe right now. It's not a full boat. It's not a big ship. It's a little canoe. We're upstream. We're going upstream. It's a windy day. It's a windy couple years, I should say, but it's happening. It's happening. So we are going to go into the Minnesota Gopher Football segment, And also, since, it's Minnesota. It's a bye week. We got some time in the show. We're going to end up talking about Jimmy Butler to close it. Usually it's Gopher football to close it. We didn't have that long recap segment. We're going to end the show with some Jimmy Butler's bye-bye buckets is what it's going to be called. And we'll also talk a little bit about what we plan on doing when the Viking season is complete. So stay tuned for that. Obviously, it's a basketball theme. Now, the Purple People Eaters podcast will be a podcast that runs all year long. Now, it won't be on a weekly basis all year long. Once the season's over in February, right, Aaron? The season's going to be done in February, right? That puts us in the Super Bowl. For those keeping track at home, February is the Super Bowl time. We'll take a little break after the Super Bowl, shuffle. After we may go live on the streets, for the parade out in the cold. You never know. But then we're gonna shut it down for a couple of weeks. We'll be back to talk free agency. We'll be talking mini camp and draft stuff and more free agency stuff. And so we'll be with you past February, a little bit less. It won't be weekly, but just to kind of let you know what our plans are with the show. It will be year-round, just not weekly. Only from like August till basically February, it'll be weekly. So there's that. But on to the Gophers. Now, last week, obviously, the Gophers got a win, and they won stupendously. Like, it's phenomenal. I can't say enough how great of a win over Purdue, a team that has three ranked teams at the time, three scalps, on their ledger this season. They're on the up and up. I really hope the coach doesn't stay long. Go to Louisville, buddy. It's warmer there. I don't know what to tell you. Just please go to Louisville. But this guy and this team has been playing really great, especially for Purdue. Drew Brees is not walking through that door. Well, he's probably walking through the door this season a little bit more, right? But a great, great victory. And although we're going to talk offense, we're gonna break the offense down. It's about time we start with positivity with the defense. And just last week, the week before, like just so many times, 2 seasons, our defense has just been dreadful. We talked about that Illinois game where it was, 7 plays, 21 points. I think it stretched to 12 plays for 28 points. These long runs, missed tackle, nobody around. It just was garbage, hot garbage. And there was a firing, as we know. Defensive coordinator out. Now, we both talked about how, you tend to get a lift, especially in college. You tend to get a lift on either the whole team if the head coach got fired or the side of the ball where the coordinator let go. You just tend to get a lift. So did we talk about, they're going to play better defense? Yeah, we did. Now, we get a Monday morning quarterback and say, we saw this coming. I am going to be the first to say that I did never think, ever, that they'd only get 10 points. And that 7 points would come in garbage time to hold this team that was explosive offensively, very solid on defense. Like I said, we're going to get to the offense. But I would have put a bunch of money on a bet saying that Purdue would score more than 10 points. If you would have said, hey, Gophers, they're going to hold Purdue to 10 points. What do you got? And blow them out. You want to bet on that? I'd be like, yeah, man, how much? Like, do you have, I'll go to my bank. Let's get a bank statement. I'll pull for titles on this one. There's no way in hell. Sure, a little improvement. Yes, we saw that coming. But damn, Aaron, holy cow. There was life on the defensive line. Moore really stood out, but some younger guys. I really wish Moore was a junior, not a senior. But some other guys stood out. The defensive line stood out a little bit. The linebackers were making plays everywhere. The coverage was there too. It was a little bit tighter on the line, a little bit more, bump and run. Just overall, they were possessed out there, and they got back to the basics. They looked like the team that defensively, especially, that played against a high-powered Fresno. Even better than that game, obviously, point total. And the team we saw defensively, when we were kind of working out the kinks of our offense in the non-conference, right? Trying to say, we left some points on the field. We thought we were going to be pretty good at defense. Great, no, but we thought we'd be a whole lot better than what we had shown. What do you got to say for this performance on the defensive side of the ball, man?
It was really encouraging. Did not see it coming, just like you said. I expected marginal improvements, maybe not giving up 70-yard runs or maybe just one. I was really, really surprised that the fixes seem to be small fixes. Like you mentioned, bump and run coverage, some stunts on the defensive line, linebackers filling gaps. Things like that just seem to be very simple, basic things that allowed everybody to play fast. And I think that's what they did. They came out and played fast. I would have bet the titles in the house on everything on the fact that we would give up more than 10 points to a really strong offensive Purdue team. The weather, I think, had a little bit to do with it. I think it was colder than they were used to. I'm glad we came out and performed well in it. We've got to do it again this Saturday. But I think for the most part, there was a game in the first half, and then I think Purdue just said, let's get back on the bus. And they really didn't show a heck of a lot of fight. Now, whether it was, us kicking the crap out of them or them like, screw it, let's get out of here. Either way, it was a really convincing win. It was good to see. I think the program really, really needed it. The linebackers particularly seem to be more focused, more cognizant of what they were supposed to do. They were filling holes, dropping into coverage, doing the simple type of things.
They were like on the line of scrimmage on both sides. It's like they shortened the field too. They talked a lot about that in the post game too.
And a good pass rush from somebody other than Carter Coughlin. We got some sacks in there. I think it was to a point where Carter could be used more as a guy to draw double teams. Just seemed like it was a sensible defense and something that we had not seen since maybe the non-conference schedule. And, I don't know if it was a situation where the players just kind of gave up on the coach or what it is. I don't want to speculate, but to have a turnaround like that in a week after a fire, it kind of makes you think, well, what the hell was going on there? But I thought it was a really impressive show, really gives you a lot of faith going into this next game and even into the next step in the program. So I really think it was a needed win. It was really good to see. Awfully surprised. I think the whole town was surprised. And let's see if they can keep it going here. They got 2 more to get a bowl game. It'd be nice to see if they could somehow find a way to get that 6th win.
Yeah, we talked about it last week. I thought, I didn't like our. I'll just admit it. It's on record, so I can't dodge it. Although I shouldn't say that because, I hear other people doing it on podcast or on live air or politicians. It's on record, but it doesn't fucking mean anything. But seriously, I really thought there's no way we get 2 wins. Now, am I ready to say we're going to win out? Am I ready? No, nothing like that. But heading into this game, I thought we'd play better but lose. I thought it'd be a little tighter of a loss. It'd have to be compared to what some of these losses were like. But to have a 41-10, man, and now you're sitting at Northwestern, and you're at Wisconsin, who's not the Badgers. They are not the Badgers that we know, or that we've known for a long, long time. And at some point, that losing streak to them will end. Will it be this year? We don't know. But they have a legit chance now to get that 6th win. I can't sit there and say, oh, it's a 50-50 shot because it's 2 games, 50-50. But we got a legitimate shot, and I feel a lot better than I just did last week. You were a little bit more confident. You were more confident for sure about getting the 6th win. And as far as the 6th win goes, for those people that either just kind of tune out to college football or only watch the big matchups or, you know, watched a couple years when Kill got the ball rolling and, you know, that Wisconsin game up 17-10 at half. If we win that game, we're in the, you know, Big Ten Conference final game. For those who are kind of just tuned out right now, I get it. But the 6th game, the bowl game is big because it's camaraderie. It's all that stuff. You travel, yeah, that's all great. But it's really the practices, especially with a young team. It's the youngest team in the nation or whatever. So here you are to get these 12 or 13 or 15. It's usually kind of different how they schedule them every year. But those are really, really important practices because you got to figure after November, when December hits, they won't practice till March, you know? So, I mean, to be able to – what they do is they kind of just, you know, wind down, get in the weight room, get a little rest as far as the bumps and bruises and nagging injuries, go to your finals. That's really what it's about. It's about getting back in the – you know, getting your weight back up, getting your strength back up that you lost during the season, you know, icing up, icy hotting up and all that good stuff, and then – getting back to it, and then you kind of refocus, retool. And for a young team to get those practices, it means a lot. But as far as that defense, a little bit more, you know, 88 yards rushing, but they ran the ball 30 times. So 2.9, they didn't have a guy, you know, over 34, which is huge. They contained the shit out of the quarterback, 31 attempts, only 142 yards. Morgan was pretty solid. Now, we did have the dropsies, no doubt about it. Every which way, the pick wasn't his fault. It was a drop. So there was a drop touchdown. So the wide receivers who have been, you know, out of control, they weren't as good. Now, Johnson, you know, still had some yards and made the touchdown and whatnot. And, you know, even – the guy who messed up, you know, I think it was Bateman, he did actually make a nice grab in traffic, his only catch, a little later. But Ibrahim, dude, the offensive line in Ibrahim right now, and even Williams to the other, you know, to the lesser extent, but 18 carries, $155 for 8.6 a clip, had a 43-yard run, and Williams came in there, had a 30-yard run as well, 9 for 68, 7.6 clip. Overall, 41 carries, 265, 2 touchdowns on the ground, 6.5. And what was cool is I like what they've done. Sometimes it's a little overkill if you're not going to throw the damn ball sometimes with Seth Green. But I like what they've done with Seth Green as far as finding him a role. And he actually did like the extended Tebow dump play where you fake a run and you just chuck it over, except this one wasn't exactly by the goal line. Usually Tebow and others have done that. So that was pretty cool for his, you know, his role to kind of expand and to keep a guy like that on your team. And hopefully he can catch some passes here in the future too, because after all, he hasn't been playing the position for long. I really like what we saw out of Seth Green, not just because he, you know, could throw a touchdown or whatever, but they actually, you know, they expanded his role minorly and it involved passing. Now, it seemed like Purdue just kept shooting himself in the foot when it came to dumb penalties. That's for sure. But overall, man, it was a great game. And speaking more on offense, the offense has 9 returning starters the next 2 years. Not just going in the next year, the year after that too. They have 7 starters who are freshmen. I mean, and by the way, the third down, dude, 0 for 12 on third down. Purdue was held to. That was huge. And a couple of a couple of fourth down stops, 2 of them. They did get a couple of them as well. I think it was 3 of 5, but just forcing them to go 5 times on fourth down, that's a good thing. That's a very good thing. I'm pretty sure one of those fourth downs was on that scoring drive that they got in the end. But overall, heading into Northwestern now, Northwestern beat Iowa. They were actually a 9-point underdog in that one. And they are going to be the representative of the Big Ten West. They are playing in the conference final. Now, there's a couple ways to look at this. I've heard a lot of people already kind of do the knee jerk, which, you know, percentage-wise, and if you've watched football, especially college football, I get it. You know, just like how we talked about how if a coach gets, you know, canned, you definitely get a lift that next week. Sometimes a couple games, if there's a couple games left, odds are you're going to get fired later in the season. There's a little boost. Now, a lot of people just assume that Northwestern's going to have a letdown because they went through the party. They won a game. They're going there. They started like 1-3 or 1-4 or something like that. They've strung off a bunch of wins. They have a great conference record, you know, based off that. But although I think that could happen, Aaron, I do think that. You know, it is a natural instinct if you watch sports enough for them to have a letdown the next week after accomplishing something. Because it doesn't matter what happens now. Their conference record's so good, even though their overall record kind of throws you off, their conference record's so good, they're going to the conference final regardless. Now, I could see a letdown, however, with like when you put up the film, and the coach gets up there Monday morning like he did right now, today, and says, hey, did you see the Gophers game against Purdue? For those who are out there partying and having a good time and think we got this thing locked up, yeah, we got it locked up, but do you want to back into the conference final or do you want to win out here? We've been on a run. Let's get it done. And that whole knee-jerk letdown, I'm not sure if I buy it this week because of the thrashing the Gophers just put on Purdue.
Yeah, I think it's really wishful thinking, and I'm on board with that. Let's hope they do have a letdown, but you know, chances of that happening, yeah, 50-50. It could be cold day, it could be a cold day, and you just don't know what you're going to get from both teams. They had a great performance the Gophers did on Saturday. Can they follow that up? That is the question. Can they have a similar defensive performance? If they do, this is going to be a close game and a good game. Let's look at it. Okay, let's say Northwestern's at their best. They come to play. There's no letdown, and then we're ready to play. Can we beat them? I think we can. Northwestern's never been a team loaded with talent. They've got good coaching, a really good scheme. We have some talent, and it's young, but it's talent. And I think, head-to-head, both teams playing their best, I think we got a good chance to win this one. Now, experience is a thing. Northwestern does a lot of tricky stuff, and they like to move guys around, things probably that our guys haven't seen as far as our offensive side hasn't seen. Our defense has been around the block and played Northwestern a few times, and it's managed to win some of those games. So I don't think anybody's shaking in their boots having Northwestern come into town. I just don't think it's good to maybe rely on some sort of letdown. I think you want to just plan that they're going to be at their best and adjust to that. I think that we have a good chance to win that game head-to-head, both teams playing well. And then you're in line for a 6-win bowl game, probably somewhere in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, or some place like that. But nonetheless, you're right about
Tornado Alley when everything's gray and crappy out. Yeah, that one. Yeah, that's where we end up in the Holiday Bowl.
The Tornado Bowl. Yeah. And that's important. You're right. Not only for the extra practices, but for recruiting and all the other things that go along with it. Now, you were saying returning next year, we've got basically the whole offense back, and that's interesting because, we bring in a nice recruiting class. It's going to be heavy on defense this year, but still some good offensive pieces coming in there too, and start to stockpile. And what you're seeing now, I think, is the building of a foundation. You've got to have, 90 guys, and right now we're probably somewhere in the 60. We need to fill out that 30 depth positions through redshirting and all that stuff that's coming along. And if you got guys that in this freshman class that can hold down that position, you start to stockpile under it, or you find guys that come in and maybe win a position and start as a freshman. Now you're starting to actually build things, get more linemen, more everything, and that's what we need. So I think, plan on Northwestern being at their prime and us coming in and trying to beat a good football team. I think it's definitely within reach. Wisconsin, like you said, is not the Wisconsin we're used to, but they're still pretty good, and I think we play them at their place, so that'll be a tough order to win this time. It'll be 14 in a row if they beat us. So, but maybe this is the year we beat them. That'd be awesome. I think that'd be the greatest way to finish out a regular season that anybody here could imagine. So, yeah, things are looking up. Let's fight hard against Northwestern and see what we can pull out. And just hope maybe they do let down. Maybe they did some partying this week. Who knows?
Yeah. Yeah, it could be. I'm definitely not ruling that out. But there is something to be said when you turn on that film and you say, hey, just so you know, the Gophers are not hiding in their hole anywhere. But just a stat I forgot to mention. So this is it's the beginning of the third quarter in that Purdue game. At the time, the Gophers had $134 on the ground. Purdue had -2. We're going to need to play very good, just solid defense. Here's the thing. I really think now, I guess you could say, well, I'm going to go through this whole list of games, and then this is the game that's not going to be close with Northwestern. But, so I guess they, with odds, you kind of look and go, well, they're kind of due for a game that's going to be a little bit wider on the scorecard. So keep that in mind. But a lot of these games, Purdue, they beat what was it? They beat Purdue week 1, 31-27. They lost to Duke, 21-7. Akron, they lost. LeBron wasn't playing there, and they lost to Akron, Ohio, 39-34. They lost to Michigan, 20-17. They beat Michigan State, 29-19, and that was a late score. Beat Nebraska in overtime, 34-31. Probably shouldn't have won that game when you think about it. If you look at how it played out, they snuck by Rutgers, Aaron, 18-15. Second half or like a late score to get it 31-17, so pretty close. They lost to Notre Dame, but played them really tight 2 weeks ago, 31-21, and then so they lost that game, but still it was tight. And then 14-10 got the job done on the road too. This one's going to be a morning game, 11 a.m. Big Ten Network. I don't know, man. It's really tough to be like, oh, yeah, we're going to win this. You know what I mean? I could see us losing and then finally beating Wisconsin the next week, potentially, because we have a lot more to play for than them at the time. I want to show up. I really want to show up. You know what I mean? I really do. I just want to show up. Anything else Gopher-related before we get into Bye-Bye Buckets segment? And then we're out of here.
No, let's bring on Bye-Bye Buckets.
All right. So Bye-Bye Buckets. Well, it had to happen. And, as far as I mentioned, the Purple People Eaters pod will be here, on a regular basis. We're going to start the show up earlier on a weekly basis, more early in August next year, just so you know. We will go all the way, hopefully through February, but then we'll be back after a couple weeks off to talk free agency fallout, whatever, player moves that is made, and then obviously the draft. And so we're going to be with you, not on a weekly basis past February, but we'll be with you. We'll be checking in with you. But we also are planning on a weekly basis for basketball, a Minnesota basketball-themed show. It'll be the Timberwolves, and it'll be the Gophers. And the way it looks, the Gophers might have the better season. It was flipped around last year. It does seem like it's going to be flipped around here. So those that give a shit about Minnesota basketball, stay with us, all right? And we'll remind you as the season winds down for football too. You know, he had to go. He had to go. I'm glad we didn't trade him a week later after he asked for the trade. Now, originally, I think it's Taylor's fault originally because they told Butler that they were going to do a certain type of contract that could have potentially been only 3 years and allowed us to see where he was at after 3 years because he's getting older. He has had some minor injuries, and he's played a lot of minutes. So it was actually great for both, and then we decided not to do that. And we gave him an extension for $4,110. Sounds like a lot of money, but at the end of the year when you get 5 for $1.90, it starts to go, oh, shit, that's $80 million more in an extra year. I wonder what I'd choose. But, you know, and also Tibbs, the fold of Tibbs, because, you know, 4 days after the season or whatever, I mean, he didn't even fly back with us. You know, after the season was over, he went to L.A., and he told Tibbs that it's not going to work. And Tibbs kind of said, I'll get him to, you know, change his mind. And I, for one, not knowing at the time that he asked for that trade, I thought, let's go to February with him and see if we can be in that third spot again and then make a run and hope for injuries or whatever from Golden State. And at the time, Houston. Now, Houston is struggling so far. They'll get it together. That second spot is all of a sudden open. If you think about it, if we're focused like we were last year, no distractions, we literally could have been the second seed this year potentially. Because if you look at that, we were in the third and fourth seed the whole year, and we missed the third seed by 2 games. 18 out of the last 21, Jimmy missed. So you can't tell me we wouldn't have been a third seed last year had he even missed half of those games. But that's neither there, neither now or there. But it sucks. We had to trade him, unfortunately. When he's on the bench at Golden State waving a towel with the crowd, that's where I get sick of him. All right, Jimmy, I love you. You're our second best player all the time, but go F yourself if you're going to do that. You got to move on. He wants to move on. Philly is all of a sudden now a finals contender to get there, no doubt about it, with Toronto and Boston leading the pack, I guess you could say. But it's interesting. For us, Covington, we're not going to drop off defensively. That is the cool thing. From Butler to him, he made first team All-Pro defensively. The guy's a deflection guy. He can get blocks. He's a hustler player, and he's that classic 3-and-D. And even with Saric, he's younger. Now, Covington is 27. He just signed a 4-year deal that really makes sense for the cap. So I like that a lot. He's going to be like kind of a motor guy, kind of like a Kogi, just way more experience. And then Saric is 24. If you look at his first year, you can see some promise. Not having a great start. Not a lot of the role players were actually having a lot of great start at Philly this year. But his second year was impressive as a 23-year-old. And he's a long, lanky dude that can hit the three. So it is what it is. Would I have liked to get better value? Yes. At this point, I didn't think we were going to. And a lot of people are bringing up Josh Richardson. I like that trade too, but he may top out as good as Covington. So I'm not like hung up on that. How about you, buddy, before we get out of here?
First of all, it makes me sick. I'm sick of the Timberwolves getting played constantly. And, as far as the deal goes, yes, of course it had to be done. It was just, you couldn't deal with the distraction and just the kind of person that Jimmy Butler in time showed himself to be. I wasn't a big fan of the deal. Let's talk a little bit about, I'm not so much the Josh Richardson guy as I was the 4 picks coming out of Houston, if that was indeed a deal. I would have favored that. I'm going to quickly tell you why. look, we're in subarctic Minneapolis trying to have an NBA team, and it's not working out. Whether it's the weather, and I really think it is, you have markets that, people always ask us why we live here, and I'm sure NBA players ask Timberwolves why they play here. It's a weather thing. I've really come down to saying that since this franchise has started. And so if that is the case and you come to terms with it, then you have to start to look at it in the sense that we need to get guys and our talent needs to come on first contracts, with the exception of a guy like Towns and Wiggins who want to stay and sign that max deal. The rest has really got to come from these rookie contracts coming in, and that you do that through the draft. And unless you're going to get middling free agents, you're going to have a problem fielding a competitive team without maybe getting a star that you weren't expecting. So that's why I kind of favor going the 4 draft picks and kind of refilling with young talent coming down the way now. I like the fact that we got a defensive small forward and a guy with some potential in Saric who can shoot and kind of be maybe a better version of Bielitsa, who's actually playing pretty well in Sacramento at the time. So it kind of pains me because essentially what we gave up was Zach LaVine and Chris Dunn were both playing well. I know Zach still doesn't like playing defense, but we essentially gave up those 2 players for these 2 players and Jared Bayless and a second-round pick. Now, if you look at it, that being the deal, I just don't think that even works out as a good deal either. I'd rather have LaVine and Dunn. So, yeah, things didn't work out the way that anybody wanted. I have a feeling that if we could go back in time and reverse all of and never have Jimmy come here, I think we'd probably been better off in the long run. Tibbs kind of ends up on the hot seat now if the team doesn't play well. So, a lot of more chips to fall moving forward. So I don't know. Kind of sick to my stomach about it. I knew it had to happen. I want to see the team play well. I want to see him improve. But I think maybe we could have made a different deal. I think Tibbs finally had to say, look, I can't do this, and had to take what was offered to him. Maybe Houston pulled that off the table. And, Houston can't be good for that long. They got some contracts that they've got to deal with. So I think if you space those out, I believe they said that those picks were going to be staggered every other year, so that would get us to like 2028 or 2026 of getting an extra first-round pick. I mean, that's just kind of the way I look at it as an overview of past, present, and future. But nonetheless, yeah, you had to get rid of them, and what we got back will certainly do for this season. And I think even maybe going into the offseason, the draft, maybe some of these parts we can move around maybe before trade deadline and kind of make some other deals and fill holes. But it'd be nice to just kind of see how they play, if their energy goes up, if their defense goes up, if they can get the young guys to kind of come along and play. I think it'll be a net positive as far as that's concerned.
Well, and it's funny because in the transition of becoming more of a three-point team, you actually hurt your shooting percentage, which we led the league in shooting percentage, or second in the league. We were awesome at twos. We were the best at twos. We were second in field goal range, or field goal percentage, scoring. But, when you shoot more threes, even if you're shooting them at a higher clip, which we are, not only attempts but makes, and it still brings you down. Because it's on average not as consistent of a shot for even Golden State. You know what I mean? Even though they hit them a lot. If you're a 40% shooter as a field goal shooter, that's not good. You better be able to get to the rack like crazy. And that was the problem with Rubio, right? But if you're shooting 40% from the three, you're like, damn, that dude could get hot. You know what I mean? So it's kind of weird. Here's the way I look at it. So trade is different. So a trade for a trade is, and that's the trade. And then the Butler trade is a different trade. I know everybody and their moms, and this is for as long as I've watched sports, that's how people collect it. They say, well, shit, We had this, now we have that. When we say essentially, yeah, I can go that route, but really, we're not going to get a big free agent to sign here. So how were we going to get a big-name player, top 10 player to get here? Well, we are going to have to make a trade. That's how we are going to have to do it. And as far as the negativity about everybody, it's cold weather, no one's signing, I totally agree. However, we did manage to sign Wiggins in Towns long-term, and about 2 years ago, nobody thought we'd get both of them. Nobody. We got them. We have Towns for 6 years, including this year, and we have 5 years of Wiggins. So whether they get moved or whatever, we got them. So that's huge. And that is a step in the right direction, even without Tibbs, because Tibbs offensively is not a great coach. I think he's a pretty good all-around coach, but he's not a great offensive coach. So we know that. Place for a long time, something that nobody really thought that, right? So that's positive. But as far as just breaking down, trade by trade, Levine was getting 20 points, 19 points a game here, right? And we weren't sniffing the playoffs at all. If Levine was on the team last year, he wouldn't have played till mid-season because of the ACL, right? So we wouldn't have sniffed the playoffs again, probably. And we had all of them averaging 20-something points. I think Levine dropped down to 19 at the end of the year. But it was basically the big threes averaging 20. What the hell is everybody else going to do? And we're not playing defense, even a lick of it. Whereas last year, our starters were a top 10 defense, but the backups, the role players, which Tibbs didn't have a lot of confidence in, hence the playing a lot of the starters more minutes, that's where I lay that out. So if we agree, and everybody out there, not just you, Aaron, but everybody out there, if we all agree that we sign a big-name free agent, how in the hell are we going to get a free agent that's a big player? Well, shit, you got to trade, right? So I love the trade. I think there's a lot of value getting Butler here. We went from not sniffing the playoffs to a potential third seed. So I think that trade in itself, I still stand by that trade, making the risk and going all in on it. It does suck that it didn't work, but Zach LaVine is going to get you $20 million. This guy we have, Covington, as an overall two-way basketball player, is probably as good as him as far as both sides. Not offensively, Levine's better than him, no doubt about it. But we had him on our team for 3 years, and we didn't sniff shit of the playoffs. So he's a guy that's going to – Covington's going to fit better than Jimmy did, and even Zach did, with our two franchise players. I think that's just if you look at what they do, Jimmy and him did a lot of things. Neither guy's shooting the lights out from the three, and they like to get off and get to the rack. Well, Wiggins wasn't able to do that. And when you can't have Wiggins standing out on that three-point line, even though he's, improved this year, he's up to like 38 or 39%, and he's getting better. But still, you can't have him just to sit there and wait for the ball rotating to him and hit a three. That's not what we signed Wiggins for. And not only that, but I think it's kind of a fair trade with Zach at $20 million and this guy at $11 per year. To me, personally. As far as the backup point guard, we're good at point guard right now. We have 3 of them. So if we were like, God, we really need a point guard, then I would have been mad at that loss of the point guard, who is solid. He is a solid player. I think he's a good defender. He assists really well. He's a good player. I think he's going to only get better as time goes. But we have three guys on the team that can play point guard. So I think we're okay there. Now, obviously, when I look at Butler for these two, yeah, that's where I don't like this trade. But I don't know what we weren't going to the playoffs with Zach LaVine. We just weren't. Remember when Love was here, he put up numbers we hadn't seen in a while. But we were 40 and 42, and Rubio was our MVP that year until he got hurt. Really, we didn't sniff shit, and he was putting up way bigger numbers. And remember, Zach is putting up big numbers. He's getting 20 shots a game. A lot of those guys are hurt on that team. If you're really going to focus in, a lot of people are looking at Zach's numbers this year, and it's like, well, just calm down, hold on. He's getting 20 shots a game. You give a lot of NBA dudes 20 shots a game, they're going to put some points up. So Zach is talented offensively. We can't just say, I think marketing is the problem for me when I look at, what would we have now?
Yeah.
The marketing.
Yep.
Because we can't even say that Zach would have been on our team because we don't know that. $20 million a year, we probably wouldn't have paid it. The only person in the league willing to pay it was the Bulls. He held out a long time. So, but the marketing, I do think that he's hurt right now, but he's a good player, had a great rookie year. Marketing is when I look, but then I look at Sarek and go, well, he's in that realm. So, I don't know, man. I just think this really the way I look at it, too, is we weren't going to win the championship the next couple of years anyway. So at least we're still in good shape. We're going to be in a lot better cap shape. And I've gone too long, so I'll shut up. But, yeah, that's the way I look at it. There is some positivity still. But, yeah, dude, it just sucks. But I will never look at it like I still think it was worth the risk because we went from like a 30-something, what did we get, 31 wins to a team that could have been the third seed. I think that still was a great trade for the trade. Now, this trade, no, I'm not crazy about it. No way. But I knew that was the risk that you don't get. Once I heard he's going to be traded, I knew we weren't going to get value because he had 1 year left on his contract. Now, had it been 2 or 3, well, that would have been different. But then again, we could have just fucking signed him to the contract, the 3-year deal that he said he'd even – I mean, it could have been a 5-year deal, but it could have been a 3. He was willing to go 3 so he could get another big one, and he could almost prove to us at that age, because that's what a lot of people think, 2, 3, 4 years down the line right now, it's going to be tough. But as far as the Houston picks, the NBA value of picks, if this was – no one would trade for first-round picks that often in the NFL. But the value at 20 and up, let's say, it's there. But every other year for like 8 years, I don't like that either. I need a player that we can plug in right now. So I thought it'd be the 2-player for 1, basically. Is there better players out there that I wanted? Fuck yeah, but they weren't willing to give. And, Josh Richardson, that is one that I would have liked, no doubt about it, potentially. He's playing really good, especially this year too, but we'll see. Anything else, sir, before we get the hell on out of here?
No, you raised some really good points, and I hadn't even thought about the marketing deal, and yeah, that just stings a little bit more now. Because he's a pretty darn good player, and we could certainly use him. The 4 picks, I guess, I don't want to be defeatist, but I feel like if you're going to get another superstar, well, then every other year you got another chance to maybe grab yourself a superstar. That, at that low in the draft, obviously you'd have to be some guy that nobody expected, but, you still get to roll the dice on it, which I would have liked to not. Your point about getting a player back, though, is very true. You'd have to get something back to augment this current team. And, as far as the overview of it, you want to say you broke a little bit less than even, over the 3 years. And, yeah, you did get to make the playoffs, which was nice. And you would have been the 3rd seed, which is something that was unprecedented around here. So I guess I'm always like to build and see if we can build from the draft, because I think we really have to, finding the rare free agents.
We can still
like
do that.
Jimmy was.
We can still do that right now.
Yeah.
We have a lot more capital.
We just have more
too.
Sure, and we just have more rolls of the dice, I think, at it, which sounded appealing to me. But no, that's a pretty good roundup. I'm glad Jimmy's gone, and I hope that we learn our lesson about grabbing the guys that, just because a guy doesn't want to come here or just because a guy wants to come here doesn't mean he has the best of intentions. So I think it's a good learning experience for all the fans and the franchise that, you know, maybe vet a guy out a little bit more and not just get so excited because they show interest in playing. And yeah.
Or do what you're going to do, too, as a franchise. Taylor's a bum-ass fucking owner and always has been. If you say you're going to do something, then do it. Sign him. You know, if you think he's your best player, which clearly he's your best player on your team, then you got to sign him, don't you? You know, I think it's our fault, too. Not just Jimmy. Now, I didn't like how Jimmy was in this last couple of weeks, but it wasn't just Jimmy because we said you're our guy, and then we didn't give him you're the guy contract now like we said we were going to do. So I think Taylor and Tibbs has just as much as blame, but especially Taylor. Obviously, Tibbs didn't even want to trade him, you know?
Yeah, and it's God, without knowing Jimmy Butler personally, it's just kind of hard to get a grip on exactly what went down there. There's a lot of rumors about some friction with him and Towns and what could have possibly went on there. And it just seemed like the guy kind of dropped in and played well, but then off the court seemed to have some real problems. So, you know, I guess it's good riddance as far as I'm concerned. But, you know, God, it would have been nice to have that piece to go out with those two others and try to make another playoff run.
Yeah. All right, let's get out of here. Enjoy the game. Let's go, Vikes. Let's get that road victory. Peace.
It's maybe the night that my dreams might let me know all the stars are closer, all the stars are closer.
Tell me what you gonna do to me. Confrontation ain't nothing new to me. You could bring a bullet, bring a sword, bring a morgue, but you can't bring the truth to me.
Alexa, play Kendrick Lamar and SZA.
Okay. Maybe the night that my dreams might let me know all the stars are closer.
With Amazon Music, a voice is all you need. Get tens of millions of songs. Download the Amazon Music app today.
Hi, it's Jamie, Progressive's Employee of the Month, 2 months in a row. Leave a message at the... Hi, Jamie. It's me, Jamie. I just had a new idea for our song about the Name Your Price tool. So when it's like, tell us what you want to pay, hey, 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 and the trombone goes, blah, 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 and you say, we'll help you find coverage options to fit your budget. Then we just all do finger snaps while a choir goes, savings coming at ya, savings coming at ya. Yes? No? Maybe? Anyway, see your practice tonight. I got new lyrics for the rap break.
Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law.